Welcome back to Edutube. Science is simple. In today's video, we're going to look at the key features and differences between 5 major kingdoms of life: animals, plants, fungi, protoctists, and bacteria. Almost all living things on Earth can be placed into one of these 5 kingdoms. This video will provide you a good overview of what each group is and how they differ from one another. Just focus on understanding what makes each group unique. Before we go through each group in detail, there's something important to understand about their cell types. 4 of the 5 kingdoms, animals, plants, fungi, and protoctists, are made up of eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells contain a nucleus surrounded by a membrane, along with other membrane-bound organelles such as mitochondria and chloroplasts. Bacteria, on the other hand, belong to a group called prokaryotes. Prokaryotic cells don't have a nucleus. Their DNA just floats freely in the cell. They are much simpler, and they don't have membrane-bound organelles. Alright, now that we've covered that, let's go through each of the groups one by one. You're probably already quite familiar with the animal kingdom since it contains the species Homo sapiens, the humans. Scientists estimate that there are between 5 and 10 million different species of animals on Earth. This includes organisms such as sponges, mollusks, worms, starfish, insects, and crustaceans through vertebrates, animals such as fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Even though animals are incredibly diverse, they all share a few key features. They are multicellular. Each animal is made up of many cells, not just one. For example, it's estimated that an adult human is made up of around 40 trillion cells. These cells all work together to help the body function. They are heterotrophs. Animals must get energy by eating other organisms. They have to consume plants, other animals, or both to get nutrients to survive. Most animals store carbohydrate in their cells as a compound called glycogen. You may be familiar with flowering plants. There are thought to be over 300,000 different plant species in the world. They belong to a big group called a plant kingdom, which also includes simpler plants like mosses and ferns. Like animals, all plants are multicellular. They are made up of many cells. A special thing about plant cells is that they have chloroplasts, which can absorb sunlight to make their own food. So, plants are autotrophs, not heterotrophs. They don't need to eat animals to obtain food. They store glucose in the form of starch. Plants also use glucose to make a carbohydrate called cellulose that makes plant cell walls, which gives them strength and shape. Now let's talk about fungi. Some fungi, like the mushrooms you might see in the woods or the mold that spoils old bread, are multicellular. A mushroom is the reproductive structure of the organism, called a fruiting body. A mold is rather like a mushroom without the fruiting body. One of the key features of multicellular fungi is called a mycelium. It's made lots of thread-like structures called hyphae, but others, like the yeast we use in baking, are unicellular, meaning each organism is just a single cell. Even though some fungi look a bit like plants, they're actually quite different. They don't have chloroplasts and they can't photosynthesize, so they don't make their own food using sunlight. Their cells have cell walls, but they are not composed of cellulose as in plants, but of a different chemical called chitin. Instead, fungi are heterotrophs. They get their energy from other organisms. But most fungi use a special method called saprotrophic nutrition. Fungi release digestive enzymes onto the food around them. These enzymes break the food down outside of the fungus's body. Then, the fungus absorbs the broken down nutrients. So basically, fungi do digestion outside their body and then take in the useful parts. Finally, while most fungi are harmless or even helpful, some fungi can cause disease. These are called pathogens, for example, athlete's foot in humans. Let's move on to the kingdom of protoctists. First, a quick note on the name. You might hear them called protoctists, protists, or even protoctista. These words all refer to the same group of organisms. We'll stick with the term protoctists. Most protoctists are unicellular, which means they consist of just one single cell. But even though they're tiny, there's a huge variety among them. Some protoctists, like chlorella or euglena, are similar to plant cells. They contain chloroplasts, which allow them to carry out photosynthesis. They can make their own food using sunlight. Others, like amoeba, are more like animal cells. They can't photosynthesize, so they have to consume other organisms to get their energy, just like animals do. Now, even though most protoctists have no effect on humans, there are a few that can be harmful. Some protoctists act as pathogens. They can cause diseases. A good example is Plasmodium, which causes malaria, a serious disease that affects millions of people around the world. Next up is the kingdom of bacteria. Bacteria are also unicellular prokaryotic organisms. They are a lot smaller than eukaryotic cells, typically between 10 and 100 times smaller. There are three basic shapes of bacteria: spheres, rods, and spirals. They can live almost anywhere: on your skin, in your gut, in soil, in water, and even in extreme environments like hot springs and Arctic ice. Scientists believe that there are likely more species of bacteria than there are in all the other kingdoms combined. All bacteria are surrounded by a cell wall, but they are not made of cellulose. The bacterial cell wall is made of a complex compound of sugars and proteins called peptidoglycan. Some species have another layer outside this wall, called a capsule or slime layer, which gives extra protection. Inside the cell wall, there is a cell membrane and cytoplasm. They have no nucleus, and their genetic material is a circular loop of chromosome. Some bacteria have extra DNA called plasmid, which contains useful genes for the bacteria. Some bacteria can swim due to the movement of structures called flagella. While some bacteria can be harmful, like Salmonella, which causes food poisoning, most bacteria are harmless to humans. In fact, many are really useful. For example, the bacteria in the intestines help to digest food and keep the gut healthy. Most bacteria feed on other organisms, either living ones like humans or animals, or dead ones, like fallen leaves or rotting food. Many bacteria, along with fungi, are important decomposers. Lastly, viruses are not included in any kingdom. They are super tiny particles, even smaller than bacteria. To give you an idea, you could fit nearly 1 million viruses across the width of just one fingernail. They are not cells. They do not feed, respire, excrete, or grow. Although viruses do reproduce, this only happens inside the cells of living organisms, using materials provided by the host cell. There are many different types of viruses, and they vary in their shape and structure. All viruses, however, have a central core of RNA or DNA, surrounded by a protein coat called a capsid. Viruses have no nucleus, cytoplasm, organelles, or cell membrane, though some forms have an envelope outside their protein coats. Well-known examples of viruses include the influenza virus, which causes flu, HIV, which can lead to AIDS, and tobacco mosaic virus, which infects tobacco and tomato plants. It is arguable whether they can be classed as living organisms. This kind of problem will always occur when we try to come up with rigid classification schemes with clear boundaries between groups. If this video helped you understand the kingdoms of life better, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a bite-sized science lesson from Edutube. Until next time, keep learning, stay curious, and remember, science is simple,